When people talk about IVF, they talk about it from one perspective, the woman's perspective, which is completely understandable. But as a man, and as someone who's living with cystic fibrosis, my experience of IVF is completely different. And I just don't see many men talking about their experience with IVF, which is why I'm going to start documenting my journey. If you're new here, my name is Josh, and I have lived with cystic fibrosis for over 38 years, almost 39. I've pushed myself to the limits physically and mentally through my ultra endurance challenges. I've raised over £1 million for cystic fibrosis, so I've been in the weeds of this disease basically all my life. And now I'm going through IVF with my partner, Angharad, which is a journey, if I'm honest, I never thought I'd get to do. I've always wanted to be a dad, always. And from the age of 16, I was told I was infertile. And I'm saying I'm infertile in that sense. But I've always known IVF was going to be the journey if I ever wanted a family, which is something I've always wanted. Science is incredible. What they're doing is phenomenal. And the reason I'm documenting my IVF journey from a male perspective is in the hope to help more men going through this, because it is an incredibly emotional journey. Mentally, it's incredibly demanding. And if this video just helps one person, I'll be very happy indeed. As a coach who's worked with a lot of men over the years, I feel frustrated that in 2026, we're still not having the important conversations. There's still this stigma attached to so many subjects around men's mental health. And especially when it comes to fertility, in my belief and my whole belief system, it's what men have been put on this planet to do, or one of the things men have been put on this planet to do, right? And when you're told at 16 that you can't do that, certainly not the natural way, there's definitely this feeling of guilt. There's definitely this feeling of maybe I'm not as much of a man as I thought I was. As you grow older, yes, sometimes wiser, sometimes not, you get to this point in your life where you're like, actually, going through the IVF journey, in my mind, is much harder than going through birth naturally or conceiving naturally. It takes so much more resilience, so much more strength, so much more support as a couple, because the journey just isn't normal. It's not the normal way, we know that. But also the ups and downs, the emotional drain, the successes sometimes can be quickly followed by, some failures and some obstacles that you have to be able to overcome as a couple. And as men, we're not great at talking anyway, but talking about something where it might be our fault, and that's how we view it, whether that's through cystic fibrosis, whether it's through just fertility issues as a man, those feelings don't just go away. And I've found talking about them openly has been really helpful, just to process it. And one thing I have understood since posting on my social media about the IVF journey as a man is just how many men go through the same thing. It is far more common than you think. I thought it was quite rare. It's really not. I've received hundreds and hundreds of messages, if not a couple of thousand now, where men have reached out and said, I've gone through this journey. It's really refreshing to listen to a man talk about it, and hence why I'm wanting to document this journey on YouTube. Because I feel that so much more needs to be done, so much more needs to be talked about. We look at our partners and they're going through the injections, they're going through the appointments, they're going through the scans, they're going through the egg retrieval, and the hormonal change, the hormonal impact on their body is unbelievable. And if you're anything like me, you're a person who wants to control certain elements. As an endurance athlete, I've been able to control my environment to a degree. I've been able to control, do I push harder? Do I sit back? Do I adapt the route to make it slightly more efficient, or, to make sure that success is almost guaranteed? In this journey, there's none of that. You're completely out of control. There's nothing that you can do. It's just making sure that you can be the best support for your partner, but also the best support for you mentally. A lot of people probably forget about the man's job in this, and the man's support, and also how the man is feeling through this journey. And I've definitely felt that way. And we just need to talk about that a little bit more and have some coping mechanisms and have some things in place where maybe there's a support group, maybe there are other people around us that we can talk to about how we're feeling, just to make sure that we don't feel like we're on our own, I think is really important. So that's why I'm documenting this journey. Currently, we're in the middle of our IVF journey. So I've had my sperm retrieval, which I will do another video on my experience through that. We've had the egg retrieval. We've been incredibly lucky with how many embryos we've ended up with. We're yet to go through the embryo transfer. So, you know, there's a lot of hoops to still jump through. And we're super excited as a couple to go through this. But sharing this from the man's perspective, I think is really important, as I've said. But if you're going through this journey, or if you're about to go through this journey, if you have a son with cystic fibrosis and you know that they're going to have to go through this journey, follow along, drop me a comment, let me know at what stage you're at, let me know if this is helpful. Ask me any questions. If you want me to cover that in future videos, please ask, because I'm more than happy to help in whatever way I can to make this easier for the men and also just easier for couples that may be going through this. So I hope this video in some way has been slightly helpful for you, but let me know in the comments what you'd like to see next.